Welcome everybody to Mudflood was Armageddon. Mudflood was Armageddon. The Mudflood Armageddon truth is unstoppable. Don't let them tell you anything else unless they're willing to debate you in a fair and honest way. It's an honor to have special guest star, the famous Randy from Wisconsin. How you doing, RJ?
I'm doing okay. Had a productive day again. Wasn't planning on it, but I got motivated and made things happen.
I like that comment. He was wheezing because I think I'm going to go ahead and start with the pictures. I took screenshots last night. Wasn't that fun? Just to, giving the world this is what they call it, RJ, the down low. We were giving them the down low on atmospheric pressure and because I made this thumbnail. You can't I not good on that color too. I didn't realize that was such a blue white filter they were using on that fake moon landing shot. But Static in the Attic and some others have taken, like, oh, they will, they'll put a smiley face over a swastika because they're acting like, oh, I don't want to get banned by talking about Nazi. The N word is now the Nazis. They can't say it. They said pucks, and I just thought, no, 1.2 LED pucks. You sent me a video. LEDs aren't that good for you, huh? Was that you?
Yeah,
They're not good. Your
that's what they
harmonic.
claim. But yeah, as far as they're efficient for illuminating, but
letting the blue light through, but 580,000 square feet exosphere, each of which can display more than 1 billion colors. Somebody had 1.2 billion of them. Look at that, RJ.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool, man. Somebody said, like, I need that.
Kept somebody busy for a while.
These are guys that are just really into marijuana. Fish and Weezer were two bands from the 80s into the 90s, and they're doing a comeback tour, 4 shows only. When the U2, the band, not you, also the band, capital U2, they did 40 shows when they opened it. Now Weezer did 4 because they never repeat a show. That's the Venetian. That's not where they shot those people in the country western party. No, that's where the football stadium in Las Vegas is. You guys I'm just using this background for tonight. This atmospheric phenomenon was caught in one of the videos I watched today. Weird, huh? Look, this is actually I had to translate it. It's from
So
Dubai.
what is it?
This is part of the hailstorm stuff that hit Dubai yesterday.
Oh,
It's continuing on with a lot of weird stuff. Hexadecimal. We're going to get into the A4 scientific pitch notation. The MIDI A440 is note 69 in parentheses, 0 times 45 hexadecimal, close parentheses. 0 times anything is 0. So I don't know why they're trying to make up some bullshit. It's like, if I don't have enough, serious bullshit to wade through, even their music theory, makes it go back. I suppose I probably was the only one that wondered if Joe Walsh was being silly when he said you can tune a fish, but you can't tune a piano, and found out you can't tune a piano. We'll be all over the 440 tonight. Oh, I have something highlighted. The American music industry reached an informal standard of 440 hertz in 1926, and some began using it in instrument manufacturing. Where's their footnote? I would get really marked off. I wouldn't be able to show you. ladies and gentlemen, I show Randy my test grades when I get A's. I wouldn't be able to show you those if I left off footnotes. There's no footnote, but I believe them. I believe that they had an informal handshake with their thumb pressing on that one bone or whatever, that mason. I'm implying they're masons, man. They finally made it legal in 1936. It's not one of your suspicious years, but it's pretty close. It was in 1936. They finally said, let's go. Let's do this. Did you like that video? The atmospheric, you just can't see.
Well, it was informative. It was based on, I guess, if the narrative of the history. It was kind of odd, but
Really,
I watched the entire.
It's just one of those things. It's like, hey, everybody. I thought we were supposed to learn early, don't throw good money after bad. Isn't that Manchester civil law in your little fiefdom there? Don't throw good money after bad.
Well, also, and then keeping it simple, stupid.
That's a good one, yeah. Here's the new flat earth map you noticed on this atmospheric thing. I think I'm out of new pictures. No, there's that one. About that. That's called a geocorona from the moon. Did I show this one already?
This morning, I think, yeah.
Okay. Weird, huh?
Yeah.
I know. How long ago do you think that Lahaina fire was, RJ? I was shocked when I found out. I was shocked. So guess big.
How
long ago? How many months ago was it? Guess high.
Oh, it's got to be 7. I don't know.
No, Lahaina, Maui.
Yeah.
18 months ago.
Really?
I think that's what I heard because this guy's insurance is running out.
That don't seem right. I thought it was.
Yeah, let's listen.
I would say it's over 6 months, but it hasn't been a year.
Yeah. Well, they won the football last year, their team.
On it. Mm-hmm. So that's eating up more equity. And it's a bigger monthly payment.
8 months,
We're going to have to build a $1.5 million house, $1.7 million house. Just
now, I'm showing this for news and information because some people are thinking that the rent's too darn high. You remember that guy? So this is information and news. I'm only playing a little clip. I don't want to get nicked. I already showed a swastika.
Have equity in it for the bank to be satisfied. So there's a lot of players involved in that property, the banks, insurance company, FEMA, county. As an owner of it, with all the liability of it, we have the least say of anything right now. So
you can't speak for everyone, obviously, but people that are in your similar situation in this neighborhood, you think you guys all sort of feel the same way about this? Or I'm sure you're talking with your friends dealing with the situation.
Well, it's hard because the town itself doesn't have a lot of homeowners.
Look, RJ, you're right.
87%
it was 8 months.
Is what?
Well,
over 8 months ago. I heard 18 and I was shocked. I was going like, that's going to be, I put that first on the menu because, I found it interesting. Wait until you see what that first off, note of interest, only 600 people in Maui, Lahaina, that area were homeowners because the rent was too damn high. And then the guy goes, well, is it more now? Listen to how much more.
Are you serious?
That's what the numbers I got from FEMA when they did a presentation on housing.
Okay.
And they said 87% renters. And then another number we just got from, I don't know, somebody that would know better than us. Said there's only like less than 600 owner-occupied properties.
In all of Lahaina?
Yeah, because the rents are so high. The rents are
Like, what would rent be for something like this in Lahaina?
1,100 square foot house, maybe $5,000 before the fire. Now, who knows? You know,
So rents have gone up big time.
so obviously the supplies
Yeah.
gone, you know,
Yeah.
and then FEMA is paying existing homeowners, you know, elsewhere. They're paying them outrageous amounts to rent their home to survivors. So if you have a home anywhere on island and you have a spare one, you can get up to like $12,000 a month from FEMA for a 3-bedroom or 4-bedroom house.
Okay.
So-
So some people are doing pretty well from this whole thing.
Yeah, and I mean that's a hard thing. That's a hard thing as like, I hate to label myself as a victim, but as somebody who lost a lot in this fire, and
Yeah.
trust me, there's plenty of people that lost a lot more.
Okay.
But it's hard to get ahead in any of this, and then you see other people getting ahead.
Him and his wife were both firefighters, and he snuck this guy in there to show him the burn zone. I think he just seems pretty cool.
She saw our house on fire. Definitely, I don't know. Nobody feels like it's their fault, but no firefighter feels good about what happened. You know, they did their best. They risked their lives. You know, whole crew just about died. They had to, you know, there's a whole story about them stealing a police car and barely
They had to steal a police car. But I'll show you his house. That's his washing machine. He had his mother-in-law living in one little bungalow.
But why were they forced into stealing a police car? What, for what
the
purpose?
firemen to go
Yeah.
like I don't know that story,
Okay.
but it sounded very dramatic. He still said his friends are suffering from post-traumatic shock, and it took him a couple of months. That was his gun safe. They had bought the house 4 years ago. 2 working fire people. See how politically, look at the houses, they all burned down. Is that a blue shed back there?
Might be.
No, not bluish. So that's that's a waste container or something. Over dramatic.
Dumpster.
I was looking for this one video about acanthus plants.
I'm here at Charleston, South Carolina. I'm standing in front of a building that's constructed like many buildings all over the world. And today is one of the more important videos I'm going to make because we're going to look at symbols on buildings and what they actually.
Did you happen to catch this guy?
I haven't caught that one yet. No.
Almost 1,000 views 10 hours ago because it is totally kick ass.
I believe it.
Remember last night I was going to talk about how bad fluoride. I'm there like I think I'll go after fluoride and sugar again, but now I'm going to go after the review on the acanthus plant because I've tried to tie it in, and I've done it only through math and music. But son of a gun, if this guy didn't tie it in with the scriptures, RJ, it's like I left some low hanging fruit, man.
Mean. Now, this particular building is now termed the United States Custom House. It's said to have been built in the mid-1800s. But when we take a close look at it, we can see the same architecture all over the world. And one of the main things that we really want to take a look at today is the top of
that top of the freezer that would have been stuffed with statues, probably Pan and nymphs and soldiers, everything, chariots. You know, they always decorate the top. It's never just blank.
the gable there, yeah.
column, which is all crowned with the same plant, which is called acanthus. And when we take a close look at this, we see that this plant is all over buildings all over the world.
Isn't that cool? We're gonna
Well, yeah, a lot of detail. Right.
we're gonna really get up We're going to get after that. This is a girl that planned that light show for fish. They love to get tattoos. Nothing to see here. RJ, I wanted to hit a little Bible early tonight but as the tease, I mean, I've got Cavitation coming,
is proven and has
you
been safe.
know, other exciting things about Nazis. This whole dissertation, I'm not going to read the whole dissertation. The classical order, yeah, that's all in there, but we're going to listen to RJ read a little Bible if you don't mind. All this stuff is waiting for you. We're going to even get into what they call just intonation. It's not only or simply, it's just. It means it to them, it's righteous, man. This is the second book of the Bible. It's the book of Exodus, chapter 4. Randy, this is a very dramatic spot, isn't it? If you want to comment, feel free to stop anytime you want. And don't pay any attention to me oohing and on because I, some reason, get wrapped up in it every time like I just hearing it.
Then Moses answered, "What if they do not believe me or listen to my voice? For they may say, the Lord has not appeared to you." And the Lord asked him, "What is that in your hand?" "A staff," he replied. "Throw it on the ground," said the Lord. So Moses threw it on the ground, and it became a snake, and he ran from it. "Stretch out your hand and grab it by the tail," the Lord said to Moses, who reached out his hand and caught the snake, and it turned back into a staff in its hand. This is so that they may believe that the Lord, the God of their fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob, has appeared to you.
Oh no.
Furthermore, the Lord said to Moses, "Put your hand inside your cloak." So he put his hand inside his cloak. And when he took it out, his hand was leprous, white as snow. "Put your hand back inside your cloak," said the Lord. So Moses put his hand back inside his cloak, and when he took it out, it was restored like the rest of his skin. And the Lord said, "If they refuse to believe you or heed the witness of the first sign, they may believe that of the second. But if they do not believe even these two signs or listen to your voice, take some water from the Nile and pour it on the dry ground. Then the water you take from the Nile will become blood on the ground."
Wow.
"Please, Lord," Moses replied, "I have never been eloquent, neither in the past nor since you have spoken to your servant, for I am slow of speech and tongue." And the Lord said to him, "Who gave man his mouth? Or who makes the mute or the deaf, the sighted or the blind? Is it not I, the Lord? Now go, I will help you as you speak, and I will teach you what to say." But Moses replied, "Please, Lord, send someone else." Then the anger of the Lord burned against Moses, and he said, "Is not Aaron the Levite your brother? I know that he can speak well, and he is now on his way to meet you. When he sees you, he will be glad in his heart. You are to speak to him and put the words in his mouth. I will help both of you to speak, and I will teach you what to do. Oh, and you are to speak to him and put the words in his mouth. I will help both of you speak, and I will teach you what to do. He will speak to the people for you. He will be your spokesman, and it will be as if you were God to him. But take this staff in your hand so you can perform signs with it."
Now this
Then
gets pretty
Moses,
crazy, right? This is getting,
well, it's leading up to
yeah, it was already crazy. Now it's
a number
getting
of
into
plagues here.
nuts. That's right. Hang on,
And
everyone.
Moses went back to his father-in-law Jethro. and said to him, "Please let me return to my brothers in Egypt to see if they are still alive." "Go in peace," Jethro replied. Now in the Lord, now the Lord had said to Moses in Midian, "Go back to Egypt, for the men who sought to kill you are dead." So Moses took his wife and sons, put them on a donkey, and headed back to Egypt. And he took the staff of God in his hand. The Lord instructed Moses, "When you go back to Egypt, see that you perform before Pharaoh all the wonders that I have put within your power. But I will harden his heart so that he will not let the people go. Then tell Pharaoh that this is what the Lord says: Israel is my firstborn son, and I told you to let my son go so that he may worship me. But since you have refused to let him go, behold, I will kill your firstborn son." Now at a lodging place along the way, the Lord met Moses and was about to kill him. But Zipporah took a flint knife, cut off her son's foreskin, and touched it to Moses' feet. "Surely you are a bridegroom of blood to me," she said.
Wow.
So the Lord let him alone. When she said bridegroom of blood, she was referring to the circumcision. So the Lord was gonna kill
Yes.
him.
Is that crazy? I mean, that was a
But,
new, ladies and gentlemen, this
yeah,
is a new
I'm
version
aware of
that
it.
we're reading. And that caught me by surprise too. Touched his feet? This Dr.
Yeah,
Beck?
well, yeah, the other one, she threw it in front of him, but yeah, this is a
Yeah.
little more specific
A
in the
little more
details.
specific on that one.
Wherever,
We'll wait, we'll go back and look at it. I'll open it up right now so I don't forget.
meanwhile, the Lord had said to Aaron, "Go and meet Moses in the wilderness." So he went and met Moses at the mountain of God and kissed him. And Moses told Aaron everything the Lord had sent him to say and all the signs he had commanded him to perform. Then Moses and Aaron went and assembled all the elders of the Israelites. And Aaron relayed everything the Lord had said to Moses. And Moses performed the signs before the people. And they believed. And when they heard that the Lord had attended to the Israelites and had seen their affliction, they bowed down and worshiped.
You know what? They weren't going, well, no thanks, Moses. The leeks and the onions here are so yummy. We can't dream of leaving. Cast, it said.
Hmm.
Wataga. One version, no notes. A lot of casting here. Looks like that Taga, though, makes it pretty solid. She must have thrown it right out at his feet. Touch, reach, strike. Not worth it. It could have bounced off the floor and hit him. Cavitation on these old pipes, they want like $1 million if you want a pipe that doesn't cavitate. Here's why.
Vapor pressure in water, producing water vapor bubbles, or cavitation. When these bubbles collapse at the surface of the metal, they generate shock waves that exert pressure on the metal and produce compressive stresses. Cavitation peening technology is proven and has been safely used for nuclear power plants in Japan. Since no material is being removed, there's a minimal risk to system components. The process uses
There's always going to be a risk. The takeaway is that after the reset, when they refound these tunnels and everything, they had the dickens of a time getting it up and running right because of this cavitation and the cast iron. As good as they tried, those pipes are having a heck of a time. Mark Felton is one of these guys that he is everywhere. I mean, 2 million subscribers, and he's touching on the Nazis and Warner von Braun and Operation Paperclip. He's outraged. He's from England, and they're finally just getting the news. Did you know that, RJ?
Well, I was unaware of this guy and what he's doing, but I mean, that's been common knowledge for quite a while.
Well,
Or to some, you know.
yeah, and he is all about the Second World War. But there's John F. Kennedy. Oh, they know that's Warner von Braun. That's LBJ. He was probably in on killing it. Who are these other people? These are all people that for James Bond.
That guy's holding a cigarette, so yeah, that kind of
Smoking in public.
not a problem.
They killed more slaves building the V2 rocket, which basically was the Redstone rocket powered by hydrogen peroxide making steam. It was a steam powered rocket. Don't not look it up on yourself though, you know. So it was late in the war, and to his own shame, he said Britain hired these people first in some operation. I think for the news, we can listen to some of it.
Same time, Britain was also being bombarded with the more advanced V2 ballistic missile, the first artificial object to travel into space on the 20th of June 1944. The first V2 fell on
That's
Britain.
amazing. When was it that they landed on the moon? Was that June 19th? I don't even remember.
On the 8th of September of that year, and the last on the 27th of March 1945. Between these two dates, over 1,400 V2s hit England, killing 2,754 people and injuring a further 6,523.
Now he remember that number because he brings it up that these guys, they knew that they were using these underground tunnels and using not only Jews, anybody they captured. I'm not pro-Jew or anti-Jew. I'm anti, this whole fake war in the Golan Heights, the Gaza Plateau. No, it's a plateau. It's right there by the ocean. So, he's the guy that by 1958, he was the head of NASA and he was starring with Walt Disney. And, he was, they're saying he was forced, but this guy proves that, America wanted to go to the moon. That's photoshopped? I don't remember that flag being blacked out. Look at that. They wanted to honor him. He's a baron. He's officially a baron. That's what the von Braun, it's brown. It means brown. I think they even pronounce it brown. See that? They still have him honored in Huntsville. They want to go to the moon. Yeah, they did it, everyone. The Rosicrucians, the John Birch, they've all merged. It's going to be this. It's going to be not much fun. Let's get back to that other video. This guy's dissertation. I've got that dissertation. Just so, let's just stream through. You can look at some of the detail and realize probably we'll listen to him some more, but I look at the index.
That's the catalog where you could order it from.
Greek acanthus leaf, Greek ornament, Roman ornament, Byzantine, Roman, Gothic, Renaissance, Baroque, Rococo. The acanthus leaf in the 18th century, European ornament. So the big takeaway on this guy is that everyone was using this until 1880, and then it stopped. It just He said they still used it some, but nobody built with it anymore. That's the acanthus leaf. You'll see it's stylized in some cases, but it is the head order, the Corinthian order. The bibliography for this investigation has been compiled from available literature on the acanthus motif in American exterior and interior architectural ornamentation in the 1800s. These sources were found chiefly in the University of Colorado Library and in the Library of Congress. It goes on to explain, they quit using it, what it is.
Hmm.
A few more pictures. Bronze mirror from the end of the 5th century BC. This is looks like the 4th century. I don't like the way they label the centuries and stuff. Starting 0. But whoever does that, I don't know. So it's everywhere, right? This guy nails it, man. He's really cool on it. Let's skip ahead, though, because we kind of already know it's super cool.
High esteem and high regard to have it on everything on the building. And why is that? When it's used all over the world, but yet it's said that it came from a really frivolous thing. The reason given for why acanthus is used as a symbol worldwide in architecture and otherwise is actually from a legend called the Legend of Callimachus, which was related by the supposed writer Vitruvius, who was said to have lived from 75 to 15 BC. And I'm just going to relate it briefly here. You can read about it. But legend has it that Callimachus, a Greek architect and sculptor working in the second half of the 5th century BC, was so moved by the sight of a bunch of acanthus leaves crowning the grave of a young girl, it inspired him to reproduce them as the decoration for the capital of a column. The sight inspired the passing Callimachus to create the now famous capital for the pillars at Corinth. And that is what is given as the origin for the Corinthian column. And
I hope I don't have to explain that that's just total bullshit. Have you
I believe it's their narrative, but yeah, how would you?
Right.
Matthew, and it says that they fashioned a crown of thorns. And when you look at the word thorns and you translate back to what the original word was in the Greek, the word was akantha, A-K-A-N-T-H-A. Looking at the scripture, Matthew 27:29, and when they had platted a crown of thorns, they put it on his head. And what we do is use a concordance to go back to the original Greek, and you can see there's numbers next to the words here. And when they had platted a crown of thorns, thorns is the Greek word 173 in the Strong's Concordance. We'll click on it, and the original word was acantha, which is the acanthus plant, which the significance of this is acantha, it means a thorn. And originally in Genesis, that was the curse put on mankind. That is the plant that is on everything. And it's very clearly the same plant, acantha.
It also is a weird property of that you don't have to plant it. You can just throw it on the ground and it'll take off growing. Weird.
Hardy.
And that plant, which is this.
Full disclosure, I think the Jesuits took it over and started using it to mark their thing, because this whole Corinthian order and everything comes back to trying to prove a Trinity and a John D, and that the King James is hiding a code to lead you to the pyramids in Giza near the ongoing. It's lasting a little bit longer than the 6-Day War that that new foe Israel is fighting with the Gazans.
Mm-hmm.
Remember how much trouble you had fitting the frame on that door? Man, that was when you were young, back in the 1890s, I think.
Plants
It's right.
described on
The shadow was right on the one side of the door, right at the crack.
crucifixion. And what's the significance of that?
This is important.
The original curse that was put on man in the Garden of Eden when Adam sinned was that the land would be cursed and that it would yield thorns and thistles. In Genesis 3 is given the very first punishment or sentence for disobedience to God by Adam in the garden. In Genesis 3:17 we read, and unto Adam he said, because thou hast hearkened unto the voice of thy wife and hast eaten of the tree of which I commanded thee, saying, thou shalt not eat of it. Cursed is the ground for thy sake. In sorrow shalt thou eat of it all the days of thy life. And Jesus took that curse on himself. Symbolically, he took it on himself by the crown being placed on his head of the exact plant that is the thorns and thistles plant. And it's also
So it's an interesting plant. It's up in the open, but let's pick it up here.
And it says, gather grapes of. Well, of means off of. And thorns is the Greek word 173, which is acantha again. So that's, do men gather grapes from acanthus? Well, by the looks of how they are depicted in architecture and all sorts of renderings and things like that, it looks like it.
It looks like they shouldn't, though, to me. I'm not sure that the acanthus is the good plant. I think it's part of the Greek love.
Obviously, it's depicted as having berries that seem to look like grapes, but in Matthew 7:16, it says, ye shall know them by their fruits. Do men gather grapes of thorns or figs of thistles? And when we go to the concordance, we look at those words, and it says, gather grapes of. Well, of means off of. And thorns is the Greek word 173, which is acantha again. So that's, do men gather grapes from acanthus? Well, by the looks of how they are depicted in architecture and all sorts of renderings and things like that, it looks like it. But obviously from this analogy, it's saying those kind of grapes, the normal kind, aren't gathered from acanthus or thorns.
Yeah, they're yucky.
Or figs of thistles. Thistles is the Greek word 5146, which is tribolos, and it's made up of the word tri, meaning three, and the second part of it means spear or arrow. And so three-pronged obstruction in war, that is by analogy a thorny plant.
Wow. What are you getting from this, brother? I'm going to say hello to people in there to see if Luther or Victoria or anybody else, Marcella, has any idea what's going on here. Hola, Marcella. Thank you.
Yeah, the curse that was spoken of in the garden, it's hard to imagine that it was a single species of plant, but because there's plenty of different weeds, noxious weeds that have all them characteristics of thistles or thorns. So as far as choosing one for what whether the leaf of it or that, but I think there's plenty to choose from.
A fruit. My main suspect is going to be a fruit. It's a fruit. I don't know.
Well, it's going to have a seed, to.
What is it? Here's something. You sent me this. The world's most expensive item by weight in the world. Saffron.
Yeah.
What did you
From a
learn about
flower.
saffron? This is not acanthus, everyone. This is the most expensive.
I
It
think
comes.
that was something in a song back in the 60s, too. I
I'm
think.
just mad about saffron. That's
Yeah.
Donovan, the man who lived. I drove past his house many times. I knew his maid and some. That's just time for a different story for a different time. Why is it so expensive, Randy? It takes 1,000 flowers to get 1 ounce. Oh, okay.
Yeah, it doesn't weigh up. Yeah, I mean, a pound is a pound world round, but what you're going to have to gather.
But I guess you just,
uh,
$10 a gram and you just it's good.
but you only need a micro
Right.
dosage. If you want to compete with Prozac with it, I think was
That was the deal, is that it heals. It heals. That's what it says. And we need it.
double
Why
blinded, you
why
know.
are people stressed? Oh, because the United States brought Nazis. That was Warner von Braun. That's him testifying, for the United States Army after he was supposed to be the worst guy in the world. He didn't care if they were Jews
I
or
think it's
not.
the stress is through compartmentalization, and everybody's wondering what the other guy's doing because they don't communicate. Everybody's speculating.
I made a video about the Redstone missiles, and there's a copy of him sending a letter to Truman, like, I need another 500 grand, but we're going to go to the moon on the Mercury Redstones. That's
Nice trip.
steam powered. Oh, that's the Saturn. I don't know. That might be solid fuel. Another Nazi. Testing out the V2. That took them they were able to fake the whole moon landing shenanigans. Looks like a bacteriophage. Looks like put some clothes on, man. They even they haven't tore down his statues. He made a big deal out of that.
These are both thorny plants that are obviously hard to tell apart from a grape plant, as Jesus is using this analogy for testing the character of false prophets that come to you. But in so doing, it shows a clue into what the plant is. Do men gather grapes from thorns or figs from thistles, or off of thistles? And at the bottom it says, wherefore by their fruits you shall know them. So obviously the fruit is drastically different, but the plant is difficult to tell apart on the surface. And there is the possibility that the original thorn designation pertained to the nature of it being troublesome rather than it being sharp.
Wow.
And tribulose is what has become the fleur de lis and is said to be a flower of a lily, but in fact it's the thorn, the tribulose, and that's why it is always represented, as you can see in the center there at the top. You can see the three-pointed thorn with the acanthus swirling around it. And grapes of thorns, the word thorns originally was acantha. And is that why you have to know them?
Pretty good evidence, RJ.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't really see the
There's the
fleur de
detail.
lis, but it definitely looks like they have those videos on all these patterns, And what were you telling about the figs or something? Where they got arsenic in them or something?
Not the fig. Wasn't it dates?
Dates. Yeah, and dates are the. I think they just made these and bought them out of a kit. What's up with the date? You know,
is not, and in fact is
oops,
the
sorry.
Thorn talked about.
Oops, sorry. What do I mean? Because we talked about it, and it had something in
Well,
it.
old world, I think, once they're dry, they're shelf stable, for
Oh,
I'm guessing, but they're nutritious, and I guess they don't, they don't taste bad. But they also contain fluoride. Or
oh, that's what it was. Isn't that strange? And, and sometimes fluoride is actually good, unless it's from what I hear, waste from potassium and aluminum.
the body might be able to tell the difference chemically. They saying it's the same, but I don't know. One's natural, one isn't.
Remains
So
hidden, but yet, as I've shown you, it's right there in plain sight. And this is a clue to the kingdom of Jesus Christ on earth that was prophesied and is prophesied. And using this evidence shows that it has taken place. And this is the beautiful remnants of that, which makes all the difference, because that puts us in a different time now. And what is that time?
Yeah, there's the Mudflood was Armageddon time. It's a good one.
yeah.
So the classical phase of, maybe I can summarize that. Well, I showed you the pictures. You don't want me to read a dissertation to you. The purpose of this investigation is to show the extensive use and persistence of the acanthus motif in American exterior and interior architecture during the period of 1800 to 1900. This study is based on the predominance of its occurrence in domestic, civil, everywhere in the whole world. Data has been compiled. All right, let's see. The acanthus motif attained its height as ornamentation in American architecture during the Greek Revival. Throughout the entire period, 1800 to 1900, the Greek Revival, the acanthus motif expressed its classical origins. However, during the middle of the 1800s, this leaf ornament assumed abstraction in both domestic and ecclesiastical decorations. During the last 2 decades of the century, the acanthus motif has occurred less frequently in architectural ornamentation than any other time in the Greek Revival period. RJ, any comments?
Well, you think, those times had quite a bit of turmoil. To spend such an effort, with the
Yeah.
detailing it just I don't know.
And he was only
It
writing this.
seems suspicious. I'm not saying, the ornamentation isn't genuine, I think it, but as far as the real when it was made and who made it, that there might be a discrepancy there.
So this was for his master's thesis. He wrote it in 1948, so it might have been a bit of fresher in his mind. This is basically your whole order, how they did it. Bought it in a kit. You got the money, they'll sell it to you, and you pick it out. You order it. What do you want? What size? These are just examples. These catalogs came with prices and instructions, but nowadays they only want you to just act like, oh, here it is, not realize, damn, that's a catalog. They're saying you could buy it in any style, any size, any order you think you deserve.
Or what you have the budget for.
You
Yeah.
got a budget. You got to make your budget, man. There's that door that gave you so much trouble. Yeah. I remember, those were the days. So you can get the whole thing and you get a discount if you order the, you know. Doric, Ionic, Corinthian. They're not going to change. That's what they are. Plain. I got no money. We're struggling. We're doing the best we can. Opulence. And then they even competed among themselves to where they just went crazy once they got the money, man. You know, they got the money, stole it. But here's your acanthus plant. So we're on topic. This is another catalog from another part of the world. So unless you habla the you know, if you only habla the English, like me, oh, that's a fancy one. Doric capital of the Parthenon from Athens. Queen Elizabeth II's great court of the British Museum. They made a little bit of a flourish, but basically that's Doric. That's or Ionic. I mean, it's not plain, but it's not Corinthian. Elizabeth II, what happened? I mean, look at this one from the Pantheon in Rome. Wow. One of those, you could go off on a tangent on that. How did they carve that?
I would think that was cast, but
Probably, yeah. But we've seen all these buildings, and now you know a little bit more about them. This ties in to the music. Look at corn. And this is, you know, not in Nebraska, it's in Brooklyn. You can order that. They probably said, along for my old days back on the farm. That's your classical order. Quick look. The key. Remember we talked about keys the other night. You have to have a key. You have
the
to have
magic box thing.
in music theory, the key of a piece is the group of pitches or scale that form the basis of musical composition. They study this like crazy too. But you know, they don't give you the history of when they started calling it key. Methods that establish the key for a particular piece can be complicated to explain. Maybe that's why. Again, no, apologize for that. No reference, no footnote. They just, so in music and these things, you'll find it's worse or as bad as what they do with trying to find medical information. They just, Dorian, doesn't that sound Doric? It's because it is. These guys, the Doric mode, you know, ancient Greek harmony, they had Corinthian, Ionic, and Doric for that too. From the middle, the Renaissance, the Baroque, it just lasted all the way. Born under a bad sign, Booker T. Jones. Yikes, I wonder what he was talking about. Now, the harmonic series in music, they got all these scales. They make it work, but it's technically not in tune. Even numbered string harmonics. They know something that we don't know, but this is the way our, you know, we have an aura in the ether about us because we are life. What's on your mind, Randy?
I'm open-minded. Open-minded.
Yeah, okay. So let's see what. It's all about frequency, fundamental frequencies. Is there a history on this one? No. Only
Yeah, they
trust,
don't get into the hertz though either.
not in
I'm
this
sure
one.
this is all 440.
Yeah. The complex tone, the sound of a note with the timbre particular to the instrument playing the note, can be described as a combination of many simple periodic waves, i.e., sine waves, back to that again, or partials, each with its own frequency of vibration, amplitude, and phase. Do they have to complicate everything? Yes, they absolutely do. There's concert pitch. It's the pitch that is tuned for a performance. And ISO defines the international standard pitch as the A440, setting 440 hertz as the frequency of the A above middle C. Frequencies of other notes are defined relative to pitch. Lack of footnote. Historically, various standards have been used to fix pitch, so they can pick anything they want, brother. Various systems of musical tuning have also been used to determine the relative frequency of notes in a scale. Okay, until the 1800s, there was no coordinated effort to standardize the musical pitch. I wonder why, until the 1800, let's say between 1812, it was, the nation building was just getting off. They've had 100 years. There'd been this terrible reaping. RJ, you get it, right?
Yeah, as far as their motives, I don't know, but
There
that
weren't,
was
yeah,
their
for at least,
intention.
yeah. I think during that period, they didn't have nations. They were all happy with their own little thing, which is why pitches varied over time from place to place, even within the same city. The pitch used for the English cathedral organ. What's the difference, everyone, between a cathedral like the Notre Dame Cathedral and then just one of those, a Gothic, you know, church? A cathedral was built where the bishop would sit. That's what the technicality is. Each English cathedral organ in the 1600s, for example, could be as much as 5 semitones lower than that used for a domestic keyboard instrument in the same city. That's a remarkable detail, isn't it? Here you go.
Well, yeah, but comparing, to the instruments before they agreed upon, the hertz of the 440, the resonance of, even though it's indoors, it's such an open space, and how the sound, you know, carries through the building.
It it would probably make your whole heart beat, you know?
Well, yeah, I think you could feel the sound,
Yeah.
probably.
And they were in pretty small rooms and they played pretty loud, There wasn't no elevator music going on there. Hey, does that surprise you that the tuning fork was invented in 1711? I talk about that year a lot. It just,
Well, yeah,
every
whether it was or wasn't, yeah, I can understand why they maybe assign that date.
that's a better. They signed that date. We know it. They had to have something even better. Or here's something. Here's what you get: a tuning fork. Is this pure metal? Who knows? So I think that's just fantastic. look at that later because we got to move on. We're in for an hour. I mentioned earlier about the 440, its history, very suspicious. Many countries and organizations followed the French standard from this time of 435, which had also been the Austrian government of 1885. They wrote a letter saying, we recommend not 440. Johann Heinrich Schreiber, he recommended it in 1834 after inventing the tonometer to measure pitch. Getting all deep in the wig. So it's brand new, everybody, and nobody likes it. Just intonation. I just think that's crazy. The history of just intonation goes back to, you know it, Pythagorean math. Yeah, that guy gets credit for everything. Well, him and this guy. Man, it's like looking in a mirror. But the Phrygian scale, I guess that's a better way to pronounce it. Say it always comes down to they break down the music. When I find the best one, I'm going to show it, and it's going to be good because I don't want to. I've tried to show it on some lesser, and it didn't work out. You know, in between, like the layers of the homosphere and the stratus pause. In music theory, the wolf, I didn't name it, they did. It's a wolf in sheep's clothing. It's probably in 440, but that could just be the rantings of a madman claiming to be a prophet. It is a particularly dissonant musical interval spanning 7 semitones. Strictly, the term refers to an interval produced by a specific tuning system. Okay, I wonder which one. Widely used in the 16th and 17th centuries, the quarter comma mean tone temperament. More broadly, it was also used to refer to similar intervals. I'm thinking at the end of the golden age, the wheat were saying, we like our wolf music and we're not. Throw your hands in the air like you don't care you don't like the wolf music. They did. And I'm not even bringing up those guys like the Mesmerizer. So here's that machine. He goes like, man, you can't tune it. So I'm going to invent this thing that has more keys, but it was way too complicated. Nobody could figure it out. The problem of not being able to tune the piano brought this thing into being, and just intonation. So there's still some around, but the idea was it had 31 note to octave system. Wow. I'm not even sure I understand what that means, but it was too complicated and we can't do it. But otherwise you can get tuned piano type music. They could anyway, but lost technology. Dollars and cent. Cent in music is a logarithmic unit of measure used for music interval, 12 tone, equal temperament, divides the octave into 12 semitones of 100 cents. Does that make any sense, RJ? Not to me. They're working too hard to get, to brainwash us, but it's working because who doesn't love that rock and roll music? This guy.
It doesn't seem that complicated, but yeah, still enjoy
I
it.
know. Can somebody just give a child a cold cup of water sometime? So here's this Jesuit guy, probably a Jesuit. He did it. He's into music. He taught the people how to do it. He probably taught them how to plant the acanthus plant. I think that's a Jesuit thing. I'm glad that guy did that. Seemed like a really good video. So he did it. Did this guy help him? Nope, that's saffron.
Mm-hmm.
Saffron is very expensive. It's everywhere. He's promising a book on Nephilim being clowns and still holding on that this channel stays small so people don't realize what he's calling the Nephilims are clowns, that 10 out of the 12 times the Nephilims are even mentioned, they're good. The mighty men are good. And a couple of times it's questionable. But they were never dressed like clowns fighting Goliath, possessing people. And this guy is on the hook because he's charging $100 or more for a signed autographed book. And it's going to come out and people are going to be like, you know what? Wait a minute. This has been debunked. And it's still promised first months ago and now months in the future, but it's going to be killer.
One of them books you just keep on the coffee table.
Yeah, I guess I'm not going to look at it. Last thing we'll close out with is the atmospheric railroad. Where is Sombard Kingdom Brunel's costly failure, the atmospheric railway, the kingdom of Brunel? Drawing a blank on that right now. There was a greater Victorian engineering genius. He had already made quite a name for himself building the Clifton Suspension Bridge. Sure he did. So anyway, they had to fake this, but there really was, an atmospheric railroad that could reach 28 miles an hour and seemed to be capable of steeper gradients than a conventional locomotive could handle. Seemed too good to be true, and it was, but that's not one. It glides. That's a monorail. That is part of it. In 1844, how they dressed. That is megalith on the side walls. Everything's like that. We find it buried now. Here's his proof. They just couldn't get it sealed well enough. They couldn't give it seed, and it looks like the Saint Germain piston carriage. Saint Germain can't get rid of them. Gathering atmospheric energy. It looks like Jolly Sailor Station. Rhymes with gay. Well, somebody tried it, and I'm guessing it was either cavitation and the seal, but not good enough. What they saw in their pictures, they could not replicate with the cast iron. Good try, though. Is that a catapult chair? Aeromoval guideway section and boogie 1G. Oh. There also was the Dalkey atmospheric railway, was up and running in March 1844 through April 12th, 1854. It was the first commercial railway of its type. I don't see a footnote. Everywhere this thing, usually you can't stand all the footnotes. But here it is. They got it marked now. That's the way to the school and the atmospheric road. Okay. Yeah, this he's all into atmospheric trains, and he think it's going to help the 10-minute city. I myself am not convinced. How cool is that?
You're just rolling back and forth, but they're synchronized where it looks like it's going in a circle.
It's magnets just pushing each other and following the path.
Just back and forth.
Yeah. They go in a straight line back and forth.
Yep.
Looks like the master of finding cool stones is in business. I'm going to download that. Well, wouldn't even know where to start cutting. I cut a bunch of rocks today, man. Bunch.
With the handheld or the
No, with
tile?
the tile saw.
Yeah.
Oh, he found some ammonites.
Hmm.
That's weird. That's a body part. Man, we're living in the land of the Titans, RJ. I know we usually been hitting that hour mark, but doggone if Luther isn't in the house. I was thinking about, people like Luther and Marcella and Victoria, the Ella, other people that have been around. I know I'm forgetting some that, and just thinking, reminding everyone, it's been 4 years, over 4 years that I left Wisconsin. So much has happened now. 22 years seems like a long time, doesn't it? But think back, we have had the COVID, but it was 4 years before, I got into a time of where I actually had a tile saw and had the equipment to do this. Yes, I know. No more death head mushrooms and parkour and jumping off of the roof. I'm not doing that anymore. Anything you want to say?
Thomas?
It's the best of my ability. I didn't. I was just freaked out because I felt really betrayed, and I was like, I had it all worked out where didn't happen like that. Ebony and ivory don't live in perfect harmony. Not always. Yeah, molds and castings. There's 2 or 3 witnesses on that vote. Captain
Yeah.
Caveman, he's been around a long time too. Appreciate these guys so much. I have heard nothing
Oh,
bad about saffron. It's the cost, right?
well, yeah, there's so little on a flower, dry weight wise or whatever. But
They've kept the news pretty much the same. Tomorrow is a new week. Did you see some of the hailstorms and things that are going on? It's
I thought I read something
unbelievable.
about the dollar crashing, and sell off in markets, but
Don't worry.
no,
Joe Biden has got it under control. He's been working all his life to shine in moments like these. I'm kidding, everybody.
okay,
Thank you, everyone. It's a flat Earth
puppet
nation.
on a string, yeah.
The golden ages passed. They were all puppets on a string, too. It was those Freemason and Jesuits. We're never going to tell you anything else. Why would we? It's always a pleasure to have you, Randy. Amen. Hallelujah. Aho. Aloha. Arrivederci. Ciao. Sayonara. Auf Wiedersehen.